I would say something about the penny pinching name, but I've learned over many years of working not to argue with HR. So anyway, thank you to the three people here for joining us. We're going to talk mostly about data and how data readiness, data strategy, data management can get you ready for improved rebate strategy and maybe a bit of pricing in there as well. And I suppose as a finance guy, knowing what we know about the product, knowing what we know about how data works, getting data right unlocks everything for your profitability, for your insight into your rebates. And we're going to talk about that for a few minutes now, and then take some questions at the end, hopefully. I think having that underpinning from data is really important for us. And I was looking just why data? Why talk about data now? And I had a look. Doesn't take you long to find out on the internet. In 2010, every day the globe was creating something like 5 million terabytes of data. And you fast forward to 2020, that number was 175 million. And this year, every day, 500 million terabytes of data is going to be created. I think a good chunk of that is my kids on TikTok. But you can see the importance of data and getting data right. And that's why I think it's really a great topic to cover, and really to start to understand how that data journey happens through our solution, and how hopefully our customers can make best use of it. So if we just go through first, we'll start with Kelly, and just want to introduce us. You're a third-time Catalyze attendee, so we've got some real experience sitting up here with us. And so what do you do?
Yeah, my name's Kelly Dalewig. My official title is Vendor Negotiation Analyst. It just means I do everything. I have a hand if it touches a product. I'm helping bring new products in, new vendors in, contracts, rebates, work with marketing on product knowledge classes, trainings. I've been with my current employer, Vamac, for 19 years. Been in the industry for 29 now. And I've loved every minute. Been on the other side of the counter in the field, branch manager, regional manager, and now I'm in corporate handling rebates and vendors and reps, and really enjoy it.
Great to see you again. So Chris, this is only your second Catalyze. So you're the junior person amongst the team here.
Oldest guy, but probably the junior, yes, on stage. I'm the CMO at Valin. You might be asking why is a CMO speaking about supply rebates, but at Valin, our executive team wear a lot of hats, and my hats include the brand, lead management, sales enablement. I have a team of product managers that also have responsibility for our key suppliers and negotiating rebates, as well as helping those suppliers grow. I thought it was a really interesting comment that we heard earlier from the last speaker about this is the year for growth with the key suppliers, and certainly we live that and we believe that, and we're living that every day. Valin is not only an industrial distributor, but we also are an integrator. And you might be asking, what's an integrator? And think about outsourced procurement. So many of our customers are very large industrial manufacturers like the Raytheons of the world, John Deere's, Nissan, et cetera. And often they outsource their indirect procurement to people like ourselves. So we come on site and we basically take over all the indirect material supplies. So traditionally, from a distribution perspective, we're selling safety, MRO, and metalworking solutions. We're also part of an independent buying group. Affiliated distributors have been for the last 3 years. And that's frankly how we got introduced to Enable. They have, like you, many partners that they introduced to their member companies, and that's how we got engaged, and thankfully we're here.
One of our oldest customers, affiliated distributors, and,
yes.
And they've been great in terms of working together to introduce their member companies. So
yep.
It's great to have you here. And Ted, your Catalyze experience goes all the way back to Miami.
It does.
2022, and you've been a customer since just before then. So great to have you here. Thank you for coming.
No, thanks. Thanks for the invite and the opportunity. It is my third one. I think I missed the last Chicago one, so it's nice to check that box. So I'm the CFO of Richards Building Supply. We are a privately owned 47-year-old distributor of predominantly residential, commercial building supplies. So think asphalt shingles, siding, windows, doors, that sort of thing. We have about 65 branches in 15 states, and we started using the Enable product right around 2.5 years ago. So it's completely reworked what we used to do very, very manually. My roles before this have been in mostly the private equity tech space, domestic global manufacturing, hardware, software, and then a lot of bit of time in digital health and pharmaceuticals.
Great stuff. So pretty broad experience of our space amongst the three of you, and it's great to have you here. So we're gonna dive into some questions, and what we've done is try to split it up into three main buckets. And the first one is going to be talking about data readiness and how you guys have gone through the onboarding journey through Enable, and how the challenges you faced and the solutions you found in terms of being ready for that. We'll talk a bit about data strategy and how that leads into how to prepare your rebates. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about data management. And Marty would kill me if I didn't mention AI, and we've got a question on that coming in terms of how you're beginning to think about it and use it in your operation. So we're going to start off with Kelly. There's just a lot of organizations kind of struggle that data has to be perfect. And it's almost like moving through thick treacle before they can get going, and that's implementation of tools like Enable slows down because you're trying to get everything in the right box. But how did you start assessing data and preparing and overcoming those challenges?
First of all, for those of you who are US born, treacle is molasses.
True.
It's a good thing I know that, or I would have been like, what did he just say?
I've lived in North America for 2 years. I'm still learning the language.
Treacle sounds much better, though. Data readiness. I don't know if you can ever have your data ready, right? It's so ever changing, and your system is never going to be perfect. If it was, we wouldn't really need Enable or other platforms. And your data is only as good as what you're getting from either your vendors directly or from a platform like we do called Trimble, what formerly was Trade Services, where it imports the data to you that they get from the vendors, but then the vendors have to update the data with them before you get it. So there are so many hands involved in data readiness, perfect data, that I would say just wipe that out of your brain, look at your system and where it is today, and how can you organize your system to make Enable work better for you or any of your other bolt-on platforms. Because whatever you bolt onto it is only as good as your ERP and how you have your ERP set up. So if you work off of product categories or off of price lists or price bylines, price lines, that sort of thing, make sure that is set up the way that you want to, and just ignore the fact that you're not ready, because implementing into another platform that's how you're going to clean up your data for your rebates. And only talking about porting into Enable that's sort of how you then find some of those anomalies or things that are in the wrong category or that you're pricing out wrong and things like that, is by loading them in and figuring out, oh, hey, I have this exclusion here and we don't have it excluded in our ERP system. And so perfection is never a thing.
100% agree with that. If we were waiting for perfection, we still would not be on our journey, frankly. Our experience has been, and recommend, is you just got to jump in with the data that you have and continue to work on refining that data as you go. We've had a team of data management experts now on staff for only the last really 6 months, and trying to get our data organized so that it's attributed correctly, so that it feeds our websites, our ERPs, the Enable tools, etc. We have implemented other standalone tools to help us utilize data for quoting and sourcing and for pricing, but it's not all integrated yet, right? So we just jumped into the individual tools. Again, hopefully get it clean as we go along this journey. And then as we get more sophisticated, we can get the value of integrating all the platforms together. But often you think your supplier can help you with your data, and they will. But you've got to kind of have your act together first before you go to them and say, okay, give me your full attributed data, because they're going to give you hundreds of columns of information that you don't know what to do with.
Most of which you don't need.
Exactly. Don't need more data. I've got enough of that,
Yeah,
right? I just need to
definitely
get it
got enough of
structured
that.
right.
So, and if we just change tack a little bit, Ted, you've battled against data silos a little bit, and we heard a couple of the people talking earlier today have talked about silos creating inefficiencies, risks of data not matching, and you make the wrong decisions because people aren't really talking effectively together. And what sort of approach did you take to make sure that the read across internally,
Sure.
externally works?
Obviously, having a lot of your data in silos can lead to inefficiencies across the business. At Richards, we've exponentially grown the number of third-party platforms that we're dependent upon. I think when I started 7 years ago, maybe we had 3 to 4 core systems. That is over 10 to 15 right now, with a whole bunch of other ancillaries. So here we are sitting on a tremendous amount of data, but how do you develop that into insights? How do you make management decisions? So about 2.5 years ago, we set on a course to try to aggregate a lot of the data from those disparate systems into an SQL database, pulling them and extracting them out of the point of entry, the ERP system, if you will, so that we can centralize it. And then we've decided to use a Power BI reporting layer on top of that. We're still in the process. I think if anything, the idea was fantastic, but now with all of this data ready at our fingertips, we've sort of leapfrogged maybe even the capabilities of our managers to be able to digest. So having data is fantastic. It's good to have when the organization's ready, but sometimes it might take a little bit of time for the rest of the organization to catch up. There's only so many minutes in a day, so much time to be actionable on things. And if I'm putting 15,000 data points in front of you, maybe you can digest and act on 10 of them.
It's pretty hard to read a sheet of 15,000 things. I would agree. Kelly, do you have the same kind of experience there?
Yeah, and we're not as large as you are. We're a family-owned and operated business, 22 locations all in one state, so we don't even have those as many different regions and states that we have to worry about, which creates silos in and of themselves. One thing that we're working better towards is the collaboration between the departments that have those silos, because I think until you get a centralized system that really can do everything, or bolt-ons that really work together, you're gonna have silos in this industry. It's just the way that it works. And I know we're kind of talking about it like it's a bad thing. I don't necessarily think that a silo is a bad thing if you're in collaboration with all the other people that need to be a part of that. Because that person that's managing, we'll call it that distribution channel, that silo, whatever, they're the ones that know it best and can bring its attributes, its benefits, its downfalls, and really come together as a team. And that's what's working for us right now.
Pretty good to hear. So one thing that often gives me a bit of a nightmare, even just about our own data, and we don't have a lot compared to distributors, and where you've got thousands and thousands of products and customers and all the rest, but the status of that data can degrade over time as things change. You update cost prices, you may not keep it all up to date, and that I kind of view that as the health of the data. And Ted, do you have processes? How do you kind of keep it relevant, keep it up to date and accurate?
We have process, not a great process, and in some ways even a process backwards. So when you've been around when a company's been around for 47 years and you used to do a lot of things manually, you've pretty much worked out a lot of the bugs in the data just to get your Excel spreadsheets to work. our focus mainly is to make sure that new data into the system is as clean as possible. So a tremendous amount of effort goes into the setup, new items or new people in the HRM, any kind of data points coming in new, try to be as clean as possible. But data changes. Units of data and what you want to collect about that data changes. It gets enhanced, right? So what might have been perfectly fine for a distribution company to get, hey, this is the type of asphalt shingle and this is the color. Now it's more expansive than that. This is the asphalt shingle, this is the color, this is the weight, this is the manufacturer SKU, here's our item number, here's how you stack. There's just so many data points that get added to certain items over time, and it's enhancing that. It's kind of almost jumping back to the first question. It's never a great time. You're never totally ready. You have to rip the Band-Aid off on the data, and you just augment it as you go.
Similar to what Ted just shared, is we're in the beginning stages of building the processes to manage the data, right? As I mentioned earlier, we formed a team and have we've selected a PIM so that we can have a single source of truth, which is something that we hadn't had in the past. And once that gets all clean and the data right and attributed correctly, then it feeds all the other systems that, from our website through our ERP to our pricing tools, et cetera. What we've learned is we have multiple buyers that can buy product for the sites within the customers that we sit, especially in our integrated supply business. So we have upwards of 300 people that can place purchase orders. And when they don't find a particular product that they're looking for by part number, guess what they do? They go create another one. So in many instances, we have 10, 15 plus of the same part number or a different part number for the same product. Yeah. And that is, of course, terribly inefficient.
So searchability of your
it's exactly, it doesn't really exist, right? So certainly as we build the processes, you've got to also build in the governance. And you've got to start with, here's how we're going to be entering product moving forward, and here's who can, right, and who has the ability to do so. Otherwise, you just get in this circular movement of you're right back where you started again with, again, poor data. I think for a lot of the executives at our company, I think they thought it was a one-time event that you clean your data. It's like, no, this is a culture shift, right, as to how you manage your business. And that has been kind of an aha moment for us to realize that you need to invest in people who understand how to do this, as well as how to use the data. I think you mentioned that, you got a lot of people that think they know what to do with this data once they have it. Really, let's teach them what to do and how to take rebates as an example. How do you maximize that opportunity?
That's a great takeaway is kind of continuous improvement and continuously monitoring the health of your data. Otherwise, you're very quickly behind.
That's right.
It's even harder to catch up.
Yep.
So, mind if I add something?
Sure.
With our PIM, which is a third-party platform that we use, we upload all new information that the vendors have given them on a weekly basis just as an update. But if the vendors haven't updated, most of the time, not the whole catalog, they've updated this much of the catalog and a price increase went in for this much. So again, it's not just a one-time thing, right? And we've got multiple people. We've got a person that goes through and looks at every new non-stock ID that was built and looks at it and says, do we already have this created? Right, why did you double create this? Just because it didn't have this, instead of calling it a length of pipe, they called it a stick of pipe. So when they searched for that, there wasn't that keyword built in, and that person then goes back and fixes the descriptions or merges the IDs, and then you've got the purchasing people and everybody in our company that works in a branch or in purchasing can create a purchase order. So I feel you.
I can empathize with it as well. My previous employer was a construction materials distributor, and we were selling bags of building sand across dozens of different SKUs, and it was the same product. It may have come from different quarries across the country. It may have a different purchase price, but it's the same product to a customer.
Right.
They want to pay the same price for a 25 kilo bag of sand in one place
Right.
as another. And it's keeping track of it's really tricky.
Yep.
But if we switch it to kind of thinking about the strategy behind it and how data readiness has kind of informed and impacted the rebate strategy that you pursue as a business. Ted, you've got a couple of examples I think you'd like to share on that side of it.
Sure. The data readiness that's been enabled by Enable has been fantastic.
No one ever said that one before.
Yeah, that's a new one. It's been fantastic from having the ability to see it at a point in time, anytime. Our visibility on rebates traditionally before Enable was really part of the accounting closing process. A month of activity would happen. 2 weeks later, we'd spit out a very manual calculation. And it's like, it's tough to course correct in that way. I wish I could tell you that everything was fixed by moving to Enable, but the reality is, at least for us, because we have a cyclical business, is that within the first quarter, that's when the rebate programs are solidified, right? And how reality shapes the way your year's going. For us, it really gets started in, call it April, May. Mm-hmm. So as far as shifting our rebate strategy, it's a little more difficult. It's almost like we have to wait for the next annual cycle and negotiation for that to happen. But I think less rebate strategy shifting, but the possibility of more purchasing shifting, yeah. Right? How has the year started? And based on what we've already signed up to in these rebate programs, how can we shift how we purchase, what we purchase, where we purchase it? Can we maximize the rebates that way? Because the agreements, those are kind of done. It's how do we react to that?
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. And Chris, you've got a couple as well, I think.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the Enable tool was a lifesaver for us when we engaged just 3 years ago. As I had mentioned, it was introduced to us from the member buying group, affiliate distributors, and as we became part of that team, we saw the value of what they brought to us, which they had contracts already loaded in the tool, and once we saw the actual purchases run through the tool and give it about 6 months and confidence in the numbers, then it immediately fed right into our accrual database with our accounting team, and that was huge for us. Take that though and multiply that by thousands more suppliers outside of the AD network that we also are negotiating rebates with. I didn't have a platform that I could manage, right? Mm-hmm. So the Enable platform gave us that capability to do that as well. And since we've been engaged, we now can bring the two pieces together, and I can see my total rebate look and feel on a monthly basis. And we're not using the Enable tools to their full capability, certainly either. We're only sharing data once a month to the tool, where we should be sharing it on a daily basis to really get the full benefit, and that's something that we're looking at right now. But just having it all integrated into one place removed a lot of the silo challenges that we had. I agree with you, sometimes silos can be good, but it wasn't for us when it came to rebate management, because we had finance team waiting for the product team to get their job done, negotiate the agreement, get it loaded somewhere. That somewhere was usually in a spreadsheet, and people leave their positions and move along. Where's that spreadsheet? Finance is, well, what's our numbers? So finally, we're at a point where the data's trusted, it's clean, and we can run our business.
You're touching a little bit there on collaboration, which is one of the central themes that Andrew was speaking about earlier in terms of the keynote at the start. And our belief in terms of, if you can improve collaboration between trading partners, you get a better result overall. And you're obviously doing that in Val and Chris. So Ted, Kelly, would you feel the same?
Yeah, I would. Philosophically, I suppose, level of transparency that Richard is willing to do with our trading partners is high. Always willing to share. Always willing to share, especially when the rebate check comes and it's a lot less than what we calculated. Right. But I'll say, I don't know that I feel the same about some of our trading partners. I think where the rebate originates, there's probably a little gamesmanship a little bit. They probably count a little on breakage in the system. Like, okay, I'm dealing with a particular buyer, maybe not as sophisticated. I'm going to be conservative in what I pay them. If they push back, then maybe we get a little sharper and we cut another check or something like that. I know it's a very skeptical way to look at things, but yeah, there's been instances where we've gotten checks. So that's a lot lower than what we've thought, but it's neat with Enable now.
They're chancing their arm a little bit before.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you can catch them at their own game.
We can, and we've talked a lot about tariffs. It's interesting. We received an increase from one of our manufacturers. They said they were going to add some tariffs to it. However, the tariffs are not rebatable. Okay, all right, but they've also built it into the base price.
Instead the tariff is in the price, and it's not rebatable.
Yeah, it's exactly. So it's like, okay, I see what's going on here. Yeah, I mean, if it was truly rebatable tariff, you'd keep that separate, like freight charges or anything like that. That way we could isolate it, extract it out during the enable process. But I love what Andrew was saying about this utopian environment where manufacturer, distributor, customer working together. I think it'll take some time because capitalism gets in the way, right?
Well, and skepticism gets in the way too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. On both sides, and if that trust isn't there because they're trying to pull a fast one or something, it's going to make you less trusting to share whatever data you might have. But I have found that transparency obviously it's different with different suppliers and different reps for different reasons, which I think everybody can agree on. But it depends on whether it's they're part of the buying group or part of an individual. How are they calculating the rebates? When are they calculating the rebates? And that's what I have found where the discrepancy lies the most, because we go off of invoice date. They might go off a ship date. We end on the 25th. They end on the 31st. So that always kind of plays a factor, especially end of year, beginning of year, and when those differences happen. For the ones in the buying group, I ask, hey, this is what I show. How did you come up with what you got? And I show them all my calculations. I show them screenshots and everything, and they do the same back. If it's with somebody that's not in the buying group, you can do the same thing, but there's less, I think.
Maybe trust?
No, I think, I was going to say that, but now that I think about it, I think all the partners, and I can honestly say this, we've got some really good vendors and reps, and I think that's just the culture that we want. If we don't feel like you're a fit and that we can trust you, then we're just not going to buy from you. We'll go somewhere else. It doesn't matter how much your rebate is.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the T word. And
trust or tariffs?
Tariffs. Trust is a good T word.
It's a very good T word. I put it above tariffs.
Absolutely, definitely. But the kind of next question, and I'll come to you, Chris, with it, is it was pretty obvious listening to Omar earlier that real-time insights are becoming more and more essential as tariffs change daily or kind of by the minute, and the amount of data you've got to sift through means you've got to get much better at getting the kind of decision-making points exposed to the people who need to take the decision and actually act on stuff. And we heard from Kath about the FlintFox product, and one of the big selling points of FlintFox is speed to service and the speed in which it can get the right prices into the hands of the sellers instantly. But how are you thinking about leveraging that kind of real-time data availability to make strategic decisions in your rebates?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we're bringing in multiple tools into our business to help us manage in a more proactive way, from pricing tools, from lead management tools, from sales enablement tools, et cetera, that are all leveraging some kind of machine learning or AI. Getting those all organized into one strategic vision is something that obviously we need to spend the time on. But when I think about Rebate specifically and utilizing the tools that are available through the Enable perspective, growth incentives are such a big part of our overall rebate strategy. We hope to be growing with our key partners that pay us the most. So we have business plans in place in order to manage and to measure to that. There's nothing more frustrating, and it's happened to us more than once, is knowing that you're $100,000 at the end of the year away from that next band of growth incentive if you would have just shifted from product A to product B or supplier A to supplier B. And that has been a very costly lesson for us to learn now twice, and something that we hope to not happen again. But again, integrating all these great tools that we have together is going to help us tell that whole story from not just the rebate side of things, but on the pricing front end as well, right? So a lot of work to be done there.
I understand. Kelly?
Yeah, very similar. Before it was all manual. We used spreadsheets up until the point that we got Enable and multi-page spreadsheets all with formulas, and that was really fun when they broke and you had to figure out where it broke from and what, but with Enable, it's enabled us to look at the monthlies, the quarterlies, the semi-annuals, the yearly, the growth, and figure out where do I need to start spending, how much do I need to start spending with this vendor, with these products at the beginning of the year to hit my end of year target versus January 16th when you get your check and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know I was 20,000 away. You said I was, 200,000 away. Oh, that didn't include October, November's numbers or something. So it's it's been very helpful in that regards. But it's also helped when I'm looking at what promos I can help marketing with. So if we have a certain product, like an electric 80-gallon water heater that we want to do a special on, are we getting rebates on those? No, we get them on the gas commercial. Let's do the rebate on that instead. And so that's been something that I think was unanticipated, but has been nice. And we're usually starting to look at it for the customer side as well, our customer side.
So the three of you have had a lot of experience getting data ready. You've also recently onboarded Enable in the last 2 or 3 years, and you're fully onboarded, fully using most of the features. Chris, sounds like we need to help you get that daily feed going. And then maybe your CSM is in the audience or will listen to this. I'm sure there's going to be a conversation. But in terms of just advice to other businesses, other people, data readiness, what would you, in a nutshell, how would you sum it up?
I would say going into it with eyes wide open as far as knowing what you have in your data and understanding that granularity of the data as it relates to the granularity of the rebate programs that you have. Units of measure can come into play. Units of measure, lot sizes, all of those types of things. Do you have your data set up in such a way that you can handle all the different permutations in this Enable setup to get those product groupings right? We have a lot of complexity in some cases. I wish it was as simple as X% across the whole band, but you can get into exclusions or inclusions of little things. This class of shingle, all the colors except this one, or yada yada yada. A lot of variations. So understanding that, just making sure you're not that naive. Now, what was awesome about Enable is their ability to work with the data that you do have. So it doesn't have to be perfect within your ERP. Tables can be added sort of in that transitionary period transitionary stage between your ERP and Enable. So that can solve for a lot of unit of measure issues, and that's been fantastic for us. But yeah, again, going back to that first question, a lot of the data, you're probably 80% of the way there if you've already been doing rebate calculations manually via Excel. You've probably gone through a lot of the pain of having to do it manually. So adding, the enable layer to it should make it easier.
Yeah.
That whole unit of measure thing gives me the hives. It's
Sure.
such a terrible challenge for all of us, I think, in our businesses. Striving to have a single source of truth, I think we've heard those words several times today, is definitely where we're heading, because it's obviously will get us to a point where, again, we can start to collaborate across tools and functions. Something we learned along the journey with Enable and with AD is having a champion inside who owns the rebate management process and owns the tool, owns the education and the training of the rest of the organization on how to use the tool. We brought that person on 2 years ago, and she sits within the product team, but is very closely aligned with finance and accounting, and there's trust built there as a result, right? So I would highly recommend for those of you who don't have someone that is your main focal point, like yourself, frankly, it seems, that was a huge win for us, and it's really changed the whole game as to how to manage, prepare, train, educate, continuous learning, continuous improvement.
Clarity of ownership is essential in pretty well every part of the company I've found. And the other thing I'd probably add is just don't be afraid. Just go, and you've got to put the first foot forward at some point, and that's something that you've all done really successfully. But
rely on your Enable team. That was very helpful to us. We met with them weekly, and they guided us through. If we had issues, we reached out to them, and they would jump on a call with us, that same day, and walked us through and helped us navigate it.
And then, if we just sum up, just turning to that big two-letter word, AI. I'm using it every day. I think most of the hands went up in the audience when Marty was talking about it, and just adding 3 more opinions to the mill here. And how do you think it's going to shape rebate management, pricing management as well, maybe?
We don't have a Jamie, so we have to call him something else as well. Personally, I use it on, creating different verbiage than maybe I might use, or finding different synonyms than I can pull out of my brain sometimes. Internally in our company, we're not really reaching out quite yet. We're dipping our toe in, it seems like, and we're getting doing a lot of research right now before just jumping into one platform or another and letting everybody else work out the bugs before we pull the trigger. We're just a small company, so it could do some damage if the wrong person used something the wrong way. So we're being cautious, but it's in every conversation that we're having in almost every meeting. So it won't be long.
When I put my marketing communications hat on, I'm a cheater, and I use it all the time. Frankly, to go get a quick start to a type of communication that you're trying to get across to the organization, et cetera. It's a great way to really go quickly and not have to build that yourself. So my team has also followed suit there. We've also integrated AI through a couple of tools that we have engaged in the last year. We're engaged with a company called Proton AI, which is also our CRM platform. And they have an AI tool that allows our inside sales team to be given a heads up, hey, this customer is out of sequence. They have been buying this product on a monthly basis. They haven't bought it for 2, might want to give them a heads up. It's also, just recently, we've taken the opportunity to promote the core suppliers that have the best rebate programs in a cross-reference type of a tool. So you go to pull it up as an inside sales rep. You are sourcing what the customer had asked for. In the past, you didn't know that we probably had it in a core supplier, and it was maybe in a non-core or non-stock. So it's been extremely beneficial for us as a tool to increase the overall growth potential with my core partners, but at the same time, growth in rebates for us. And then lastly, we've engaged with actually a rebate tool for our non-core suppliers and we have thousands. So we have engaged with a bot that actually does the negotiations for you. Andrew mentioned that this morning. We were the company that shared that with him. And it's quite amazing what can happen in a matter of minutes, and you can have contracts negotiated either depending on what you're looking for. You're looking for transactional rebates, payment discounts. Do you want to have growth incentives? For this set of suppliers for us, I don't want to grow, but I have to buy from them based on customer demand. I want to get some kind of rebate or prompt pay discount. So you can use the bot, and it will negotiate thousands of those agreements in a matter of minutes. And it basically, at the end of the negotiation that happens, it's between the bot and the person on the other end. A contract is generated, then I load that in the Enable platform, and I'm able to then track that through the Enable tools. So big future for us, obviously, is to use the tools to make our people more efficient. Productivity is the game, right? None of us have time to waste right now. We have other things that we need to go do, so use the tools where they're able.
I guess as it relates to AI and the future of rebate management, my thought initially was that we'd start seeing a lot of this functionality come out initially on the reporting side, and that's kind of the message I got from Enable beginning of this year, as well as what I've seen in a lot of the other third-party platforms. It seems like it's a nice lower risk way for entree into the AI space. But I tell you what, the product roadmap presentation, Marty, CPO, what he showed as far as the roadmap and what the thoughts are is way farther than I could have even expected. I thought, hey, we'll get some reporting out of it. It would be great if you could tell us, best way to spend our rebate dollars. But there were probably at least 7 or 8 things on there that I wouldn't have even fathomed. So I think that's fantastic. If you can get there, that's going to be game changing.
There's definitely some clever people in
absolutely.
Our little data team that's been built only in the last few months, and they've got some great ideas. I know that. Yeah. So
we got a demo of the platform last week, actually, from you guys, and the agent I thought was very interesting, right? Just to be able to ask the question, for this category, what is my spend, and what is my rebate potential, who's my best partner, and what should I be doing differently, was very, very powerful.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, look, that's all the topics we were going to cover. We've got 2.5 minutes left because we've been pretty good at timing. If there's any questions, we could probably take 1, maybe 2 for quick. Otherwise, we'll say thank you. I don't see any hands going up, so we'll say thank you very much.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.